I would like to make 4 points on this issue. One, that the world is once again in a period of great transition, where the current order, or the order that has been dominant for some time, is being challenged by new centers of power, new concepts for how that order should be organized. And I think that concept of these corridors, connectivity, is linked to that transition and change order. China, in particular, is determined to be this the second power in the world for the near term and the dominant power over the longer term. And as we know from their documents, that their vision is by the 2050 that this order would have been transformed with China as the leading global power. And the whole concept of the road, which is a sea lane, and the belt, which is a land, paradoxically, concept, is linked, in my judgment, to the broader geostrategic new order concepts and objectives that China has. Now, for the rest of it, there are positive aspects. Obviously, we can't be against hard infrastructure. One can't be against connectivity. One can't be indifferent to the benefits that brings to populations around the world. But one has to be cognizant of while the Chinese have a saying that the solution to one problem is the beginning of another problem, and that the economic issues, the positive aspects, if it's done meeting the criteria that the Secretary was mentioning before, there may be opportunities for engagement and cooperation on that. But one has to be mindful of the negative, of the threatening of the establishment of a hegemonic system, and that if it isn't part of the current design, and I think it's likely that it is, that it could become so. And therefore, it's very important that we do what we need to do to make sure, to engage when where it's productive, and to challenge and contest and oppose even when it does have the negative side. Point two, and I believe that this struggle for what kind of a new order is going to be a dominant feature of the coming period. Point two is that this road and connectivity, the belt, is a reflection of the shifting balance of power I mentioned. And so for us to be able to deal with the challenging part, discouraging the challenge that it could pose, is we need to be mindful of our own relative power positions. And that's why I am positive about two things. One, that we're paying attention to, in the United States, to underlying weaknesses of our economy, of our military, to address those, to nurture, to sustain the global role that the U.S. must play. And second, to look for partnerships and alliances to maintain an appropriate balance. And I'm glad about the U.S.-Indian partnership, this Indo-Pacific concept. The third point that I want to make, and maybe I'll forgo the fourth point since the chair is signaling me, is that there is the hard infrastructure that was being talked about, but there is also, we're moving towards a digital world, and we need to be attentive to that as well. Who controls that infrastructure? Who sets the rules? Given the values that are different between different systems, I believe here is a role for India in particular, but India with other allies, not to be hesitant, but to, as was discussed yesterday, that India is emerging from hesitancy to being a responsible global leader, along with others, to form and shape and lead and participate in the digital order that is going to be very important.